The gods have abandoned us. Such a carelessly carved inscription, visible on a piece of rotting wood nailed to a dead tree stump, greets any brave soul bold enough to venture to Assyria, the farthest town of the empire. One must have a touch of madness to undertake a 2-day journey from the last railway station of the civilized world to the very edge of humanity, where just beyond the horizon lies the great desert. Red as brick and cracked like an old man's skin, the no-man's land lures people with its cursed hopes. Those who've heard the extraordinary tales circulating in the capital about abandoned gold and silver mines flock to its embrace like flies. Many have tried to survive the hardships and struggles of the journey to cross the point of no return, a 7-day trek through the wind-whipped and dust-laden desert. Healers deceive the weak-minded, promising that after 14 days of sacrifice, hallucinations, blood, and sweat, one will see fields blanketed with greenery, and beneath that lush grass, treasures that, frustratingly, no one has yet seen. Despite numerous failures, fools still dream of eternal glory, hoping to break the curse of these cruel fields of death. Eternal wanderers, longing to escape the dirt, dust, and poverty of the empire's grand metropolises made of steel and stone, paradoxically fall into the trap of childish fantasies. Thus, Assyria is filled with fallen souls who've collided with brutal reality. The few who survived the encounter with the great desert are easily recognizable against the gray sky and swirling dust. Their dead, hope-starved eyes freeze the blood in one's veins. They're like the damned, waiting for the end of their days. Stripped of the will to live, they gaze with contempt at new arrivals, full of deceptive illusions and strength, reminding them of those who years ago tried to battle nature. And once again, the survivors watch as, at high noon, a lone woman drags a small cart approaching from the east. Cast-iron pots clang against the sides of her stall, drawing the attention of the townsfolk. The red-haired woman, who dared to don tight fabric trousers instead of a skirt, tries to ignore the disapproving glances. Perhaps in the capital, or another civilized city of the empire, her attire would provoke laughter, but not here. Here, she encounters only disgust from the locals, as her trousers, leather belt, and white shirt, stained with red sand, unmistakably mark her as another person yearning to face the valley of death. Naive, think the anonymous passers-by. Foolish, the locals judge. Mad, the women assess. Defenseless, the men wonder. Yet she moves forward, undeterred by the adversities. Despite being born into a wealthy family, she was marked by misfortune from a young age. At 5 years old, she witnessed her younger brother crushed under a wagon's wheels on a busy street in the capital. As the preacher's daughter, she endured the taunts of her peers throughout her teenage years. More than once or twice, she ended up in detention or the hospital after brawls with older thugs, defending her family's honor. From birth, she was tempered for a clash with the great desert. But can one truly prepare for something as monstrous as a land marked by death, where on its crimson surface no evidence of life can be found? As far as the eye can see, one finds only sun-scorched ancient bones of long-dead animals or shyly protruding skeletons of dead trees, covered in ashen dust. This truly is a land forsaken by the gods, scarred with numerous fissures formed during malevolent storms and the decomposing corpses of those who failed to return from these red sands of doom. It is these very corpses that later become macabre signposts, marking important points on subsequent cursed expeditions. At high noon, standing on the main muddy road of the town, in clear enough air and an almost cloudless, graphite sky, one can see to the west the glimmering distant mounds, forming a twisted, winding path upward. These black dots are the graves of people buried in mass graves, covered with heaps of dirty stones. Yet on this day, when a new person arrived in Assyria, the weather mocked the locals. The wind played a mournful tune on the old hinges of the unslicked doors of a shabby motel, and red specks hung in the air, making visibility and breathing difficult. Everyone had to cover their noses and mouths with scarves and protect their eyes with makeshift glass, as only a few could afford proper goggles. The saloon doors jingled as the red-haired woman stepped inside, seeking shelter from the approaching purple sandstorm. Earlier, she had secured her cart in a side alley between the inn and the luxury hotel. Unaccustomed to rural surroundings, she grimaced at the sight of several lost souls sitting with their glasses. As she walked forward, she removed her scarf and binoculars, and to everyone's surprise in the establishment, she smiled broadly. Her white, even teeth were an anomaly among the orange fangs of the people surrounding her. She instantly became the center of attention, and the locals discreetly began observing the unusual guest. Her snow-white complexion made her look like a pearl among pigs.
"Whiskey?"
She said boldly, full of confidence. The bartender, gray as two tufts of grass overlapping each other, laughed with a throaty, raspy chuckle. He was a stocky man, slightly overweight, with an unexpectedly sharp gaze. He stood out from the crowd with his full set of teeth, which he displayed as he immediately laughed at the stranger's request.
You must be either naive or foolish, thinking you'd get whiskey in a godforsaken place like this,
He remarked sarcastically.
"So what can I get here?"
The mysterious woman wasn't giving up. Stepping closer, she leaned against the bar counter and looked deeply into the bartender's eyes with utmost seriousness.
I can offer you water. That would be the most appropriate.
He replied.
"I'm done with yellow water filtered through homemade filters. It tastes like piss."
The stranger's tone didn't change, still brimming with vigor and enthusiasm. However, when she mentioned piss, the bartender raised his eyebrows in surprise. He couldn't believe that such a beautiful woman, and that wasn't just his opinion, could utter such a crude word from those pink, full lips. It was this very phrase that captured his attention.
We have moonshine.
He responded, this time a bit more seriously.
"Good moonshine?
Just moonshine.
I'll take it."
The red-haired beauty pulled a silver coin from her pocket and placed it on the counter, which further surprised and excited the bartender. The man couldn't believe his eyes, seeing the shiny, nearly immaculate coin. If she was a pearl among pigs, then this small coin was, in this metaphor, a diamond.
That's imperial currency.
He exclaimed, swallowing hard, immediately drawing the attention of everyone present in the saloon. Earlier, their interest in the conversation had started to wane, but now everyone became alert again. A murmur spread through the room, growing in intensity. "Imperial currency," the men whispered, sipping their bitter moonshine. They looked at each other, making sure they had understood the bartender's words correctly. They couldn't believe what they had heard, as if their feeble hearing had caught another poet's tale of ancient treasures. Their reactions weren't surprising. Assyria, lying furthest west of the empire's capital, was a place entirely different from the rest of the civilized world. Minted coins were a rarity here. People traded services or worked off their debts in kitchens or fields, and only the wealthier ones tossed so-called tolls, copper buttons that served as currency in these parts. They were remnants of the 1,000-Year War, which changed the course of history, creating a new, uneasy order. Some, the braver ones, called these copper buttons grave obols, because to acquire one had to dig through the surrounding fields in search of the remains of soldiers who died many decades ago.
"Yes, that's right. It's imperial currency."
The woman confirmed confidently. Despite her short stature and rather slim build, she displayed remarkable strength of spirit.
"And anyone who joins me on an expedition across the Great Desert will receive 5 of these coins."
She added encouragingly.
5 imperial coins?
A hoarse voice, sounding like a rickety steam wagon, suddenly emerged from inside the saloon, reaching all the way to the bar, where the conversation was taking place. Moments later, the old wood creaked, and the man who had just spoken sprang from his seat and leaped toward the young lady with force. The traveler barely had time to notice a long, crooked, crow-like nose, fox-like eyes, and numerous scars on rough skin before she felt herself being yanked. The wiry man, unable to maintain an upright stance, shoved her backward, pressing her against the counter, causing unbearable pain in her lower back.
Did I hear your proposal correctly?
He asked mockingly.
5 imperial coins for a journey into the unknown? Or maybe you'll just hand over my share, and I'll let you head to your certain death? How about it, sweetheart? That sounds fair, don't you think?
John?
The bartender interjected hesitantly.
Don't butt in when grown-ups are talking.
John snapped, and the innkeeper, who was a head taller, took a few steps back until he felt the unpleasant touch of the old wooden wall. The scoundrel who had so shamelessly attacked the woman was John Marlowe, a member of Yeager's gang. Among all the members of this unusual group, John was considered the most unhinged. He was as thin as a twig, sinewy like a map covered with river channels, and his nasty habit of licking his tense lips added to his maniacal appearance. He also enjoyed making unbearable noises and loved being the center of attention. His eyes held a hint of madness, making it impossible for anyone to predict how a conversation with him might end. Everyone who could avoided any confrontation with this insane fellow. The woman, unaware of the customs in the town of Assyria, defended herself by kicking her attacker straight in his family jewels. John's face turned crimson instantly, and his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. It was uncertain whether the mix of shame and fury stemmed from pain or surprise, but the rule in these God-forsaken lands was simple. No one messed with the Yeager gang. And yet, as if it were nothing, she had broken this unspoken law.
You bitch!
John yelled, stunned, as he raised his hand. He was eager to settle the score. It didn't matter to him that his opponent was a woman. He wanted to reclaim his honor, and he knew only one way to do it. In his mind's eye, he could already see himself slapping this foolish woman across the face until she landed at his feet, begging for mercy. But Marlowe, along with everyone else witnessing this tension-filled scene, heard a sudden whoosh. Whistle. Something had sliced through the air with incredible speed and struck the wooden wall right next to him. After a few moments of uncertainty, the rogue and his would-be victim glanced in the direction of the sound and spotted a shiny, white card with the image of the Queen of Spades embedded about an inch deep into the wall. Moments later, this unusual projectile dissolved into thin air, leaving behind a very tangible mark.
Next time I won't miss and I'll take off your hand. That I can promise you, John,
announced a stranger sitting at a table in the middle of the saloon. The rescuer, for that's how he appeared in the woman's eyes, never parted with his leather cowboy hat. In the shadow cast by the hat, one could see a dark, unkempt beard and a dim, brooding gaze. The man, in his prime, radiated a dark aura that eclipsed Marlowe's slight madness.
I was just fooling around.
John backed away from the red-haired woman.
Can't you take a joke?
Oh, I'm splitting my sides with laughter.
The last comment infuriated the troublemaker, who bared his yellowed fangs and hissed like a steam whistle.
Watch yourself, John, or you'll make a fool of yourself.
I'm the fool?
And who else could play the fool in this scene? Look at her. Do you really believe someone like her could be sitting on a fortune?
The stranger continued his monologue.
Dirty, stained clothes. Even from here, I can see the sand under her nails and the bruises on her hands. She probably dragged her cart herself.
But you can't deny she showed an imperial coin.
She likely spent her last savings, or more likely, stole it from someone of high standing and fled all the way out here to our backwater. It's obvious to me that she's searching for gullible people, as naive as she is, to accompany her on an expedition. She's hoping to strike it rich by conquering the great desert.
What are you implying?
You've been duped, John.
God damn it!
John Marlowe bit his lower lip in anger, and thick blood began to flow.
Damn it all!
He shouted again, slamming his fist on the bar.
You're right! I fell for it!
He turned on his heel, staring into the emerald eyes of the bewildered woman. She wasn't scared. She watched his every move intently, ready for action, like a boxer, alert, brave, and prepared for the next round.
You're lucky my friend has more brains than I do. I hope you rot in the desert.
Everett Yeager's right-hand man spat at her feet and hastily left the saloon. The room filled with all kinds of curses that he hurled left and right as he exited the dive. It wasn't a big secret. All the regulars knew Marlowe would likely go blow off steam at the brothel, as he was accustomed to. Once the ruffian was just a memory, the woman, the bartender, the mysterious man in the hat, and a few alcoholics finally exhaled in relief.
Thank you for saving me. My name is Carmen.
Said the woman, her cheeks flushed as she approached her savior. She bowed deeply with a full smile, in accordance with the customs of the empire, a rarity in Assyria. Here, no one cared about social hierarchies or the etiquette of distant lands. There was only one rule: the strong had more rights.
Would you be interested in joining my expedition? I noticed you use divine echo. Someone like you would be the perfect partner for a dangerous journey.
Carmen asked boldly, sitting beside the man without waiting for an invitation.
You must be both naive and foolish. But let me give you some advice. If I were you, I wouldn't flaunt my wealth here, whether it's real or imagined. I don't know why you came or why you intend to challenge the Great Desert, but know this: no one, absolutely no one in this godforsaken town will help you on this expedition. They'll rob you of your valuables before they'd ever attempt to return to that cursed land.
Replied the man, without lifting his eyes from the yellowing newspaper he had been reading before Carmen entered the saloon.
That's strange. I heard that the people here are brave.
And I heard that people from the capital are wise. Apparently, we're both wrong.
Maybe you'll change your mind?
Do you really think I might change my mind?
We'll find out soon enough. If you do change your mind, I'm leaving at dawn tomorrow. You'll find me in the nearby hotel, room number 3. Just be sure to get a good night's sleep.
Are you always so hopeful that everything will go your way?
One must walk through life with their head held high. So yes, you could say I'm always like this. I've always been this way, and I intend to stay this way. It's a good trait for battling the desert, don't you think?
I wish you luck. I have just one piece of advice to end our conversation. When you leave this saloon, take a look at the people of Assyria.
What about them?
Assyria consists of two types of people. The first are the native inhabitants, who are the minority in their own town. They've seen many misfortunes related to the desert. The rest of this bunch has already made their pilgrimage through these cursed lands. So if you haven't met anyone along the way willing to join you, no one here will be foolish enough to return. They know more than you do.
Thank you for the advice, sir.
I don't reveal my name to strangers.
As you wish. Have a good day, and once again, thank you for saving me. Here's a small token of my appreciation.
Carmen left a glass filled with moonshine and exited the inn.
Do you think she'll be trouble?
Asked the nervous bartender, scrubbing the counter for no apparent reason.
I'm afraid she will be.
The man answered, returning to his reading.